So let's get into it. So, hi everyone. My name is Brianni. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the actions coordinator for the Center for Popular Democracy. And I'll get into a little bit more about CPD, what CPD is, but this is a little bit about me, a little bit about where I came from before I was at CPD. I'm the youngest staff member at CPD. I'm 22. So I am always trying to push CPD to do more Gen Z level organizing and just bringing in young people to the movement, but also making sure that everyone is trained and can participate in direct actions. So here at CPD, I cover all things direct actions, all things on the Hill. So I do a lot of lobbying. I do a lot of rallies, a lot of press conferences. I'm on the federal advocacy and mobilizations team at CPD, and we do all things Fed. So this is just a little bit about where I came from. And that's a picture of me at my friend Representative Maxwell Frost. I don't know if I have any Florida folks on here, but he used to be my boss at March for Our Lives. When I worked at March for Our Lives, he was the national organizing director. And now he is the youngest member of Congress. He's the first Gen Z member of Congress. So this was me. I visited his office on his first day, and I took a picture with him with his sign so he could feel really, really cool, because I think he's cool now. But here's a little bit about the Center for Popular Democracy. Just briefly, we are working to build a world in which all of us are free to thrive together. So we have about 53 affiliates, give or take. That number can go up, down. It really depends on the day sometimes, but they're all grassroots power building organizations. We're across 35 states. We're in 131 cities, including Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. And yeah, we have 70% of our affiliates are led by people of color and 70% are led by women. So that's something that we really take pride in. So what you're all here for, what is birddogging? So birddogging is a science of putting our elected officials or candidates on the spot, in person, in public, and on camera, so they do the right thing. So birddoggers focus directly on the person with the power. So you want to talk to the person who has their hand on the light switch is a good example. Like, who is the person who can get this bill on the floor? Who's someone who can sponsor this? Who could be the co-sponsors? What committee do we need to talk to or need to target for this? Or what CEO or what billionaire is able to move funds or able to change the way that an organization or a company is moving or is thinking? Who is that person? That's the person you really want to try to target. And we'll talk more about how to identify those folks a little later, but this is what birddogging is. And I'll have a time at the end for questions. So just make sure you write down all your questions so that I can push through the slides. And then if you have any questions, also feel free to use the chat. I will watch the chat. I'll check in the chat every now and then if you have a really pressing question. So I'm going to show a quick video. Hopefully it works. Could you all hear my Stevie Wonder when you came in? If you could hear that, then you should be able to hear this video. Let's see.
Don't look away from me. Don't look away from me. Look at me and tell me that it doesn't matter what happened to me. That you'll let people like that
telling the truth?
Thank you.
Do you think that he's able to hold the pain of this country and repair it? That is the work of justice. The way that justice works is you recognize harm, you take responsibility for it, and then you begin to repair it. You're allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions, unwilling to hold the harm that he has done to one woman, actually 3 women, and repair it. You are allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions to sit in the higher court of the country and to have the role of repairing the harm that has been done in this country to many people. No, thank you. What do you think? You have power. Telling the truth.
Ma'am, do you want to talk to his staff right now?
No, I want to talk to him. Don't talk to me. What do you think? I understand, but tell me, I'm standing right here in front of you. What do you have? Do you think that he's telling the truth? No. Do you think that he's telling the truth to the country?
You have power when so many women are powerless.
You just released a press statement. You don't have the courage to give them an answer?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you's not an answer, Senator.
Thank you.
Saying thank you is not an answer. This is about the future of our country, sir.
Why not?
Why not wait? Why not wait for the investigation? There's no harm.
How can you be speechless? What's the harm of the investigation, sir?
Do you stand with women? Do you stand with this nation who deserve due process?
So that is an example of bird dogging. That was a video of our the former executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy, the woman who was talking to Senator Lake. Her name is Ana Maria Archila, and she is amazing. And this was during the Kavanaugh protest, and she ran up on him on the elevator and, just stood there and demanded an answer and, waited up until the point that security got there, which you could see the staffer was very frantic trying to see where's security, they're taking too long, because they had all those cameras and they had all these microphones. So he was trying to not say anything that could put him in a weird position or a tricky position later that he would have to defend. So that was just one example. So we'll talk more about that process, but that was just an example of some bird dogging in action. So the goals of bird dogging. So you really want to get answers on the record by asking the right questions. And you also want to make sure you create movement and legislation by getting attention of elected officials and pressuring them directly. And when I say elected officials, I'm also including CEOs and corporate billionaires and anybody who you are trying to target or to bird dog, to move something or create something or defend something or back something or create something that can happen while letting the media know. So you really want to try to always get media, and we'll talk about that too, but press is very important. So even down to radio still, radio, getting on the radio is great, talking about your cause, and getting ads on TV or on local news stations, things like that really get to the target audience. So you really want to let the media know. And the next thing, so some things to consider. So if you can unmute yourself, what might make you nervous about asking an elected official a question? What are things that you are not as comfortable with when you are talking to an elected official? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. For me, it's probably, making sure I have the right question, but maybe it's, putting the pressure. I'm so used to, these are powerful people. So I'm a little afraid.
No, I understand. That's typically what people say is like, it's different talking to an elected official or talking to someone that you don't agree, that you don't agree with at all. Like that's easier, like to talk to somebody who you disagree against someone you disagree with and tell them what they're doing wrong. That's not that hard. But talking to people who you like and you or that you typically agree with, or they've supported things that you have supported in the past, you don't want to, or those elected officials that you may have a personal relationship with, like your own representatives or your own city council members that may live in the same neighborhood as you. Those are the people that tend to be a little bit harder for us to approach and to talk to ask for things, because we support them. We think that they do good work. We think that they're supportive of us as their, constituents. We agree with them most of the time, but if there's certain things that they may be lacking, or certain things that we don't agree with, or things that we want them to do better at, it's typically harder for us to approach those folks. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But like, for example, like Elizabeth Warren, or Kamala Harris, or anybody really, if you are talking to folks that tend to be on the side of a point that you're trying to make, but you feel you need to pressure them more, that they need to do more, that's a hard conversation. But also acknowledging that everyone isn't really given the same access to safety and opportunity at bird-doggable events is also something that you really want to keep in mind as well. Because, so for example, when we took some folks to Idaho, or I'm pretty sure it was Idaho, or Iowa, I'm sorry. We took folks and we were at like a Bill de Blasio event, and the Center for Popular Democracy brought a group of young people from New York City to talk about the school to prison pipeline when Mayor Bill de Blasio was running for president. And they passed them out throughout the crowd, and they just like, everyone like stood in different places, and but CPD also planted a couple folks who they knew would most likely get asked or like picked based off of the demographic of folks in the room. So that's a strategy that you can use to make sure that all of your folks get questions asked, because of course they were picking the young people at first, but then when they started to realize the young people are asking very specific questions, and they're all from New York City. Like they said like, oh, we want to ask some people who are actually from here. So we had someone who was from the area, like shoot their hand up like me. And they said, I want to defer my question to this young man standing next to me. Actually, I was just raising my hand so that I could defer my question. Go ahead, young man, you say what your question is. I want them to say the question. So that was a way of still strategizing to make sure that all of your questions get answered. So that's just some strategies, because again, everyone is not going to have the same opportunity depending on who you're talking to and like what you're talking about and like where you're talking about. It all matters. Does anyone have any bird dog stories? I always like to have this opportunity if folks have ever done any bird dogging. Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, we have a calcitrant Democratic congressman in a pretty safe seat in Northwest Indiana, the 1st Congressional District. And we're trying to get him, I'm part of a group, Northwest Indiana Medicare for All, and I'm chair of that group. I'm a retired steel worker. And so our group has met with this congressman 4 times since he's taken office. He took off, he was a freshman last term. He got reelected this year or late last year for this term. And we're trying to get him to co-sign onto HR 1976. We got him to meet with Pramila Jayapal, and he keeps saying, I'm keeping an open mind on it. And I've campaigned with this guy. I know him personally, you know, and so do other people in our group. And so what he had his first set of public forums, they were called, where he went around the district, and he had 7 of these forums. We showed up at all 7 of the forums with signs that signed the bill, Medicare for all, and had people ask him different questions. And every answer he gave, the next session we had a question based on his answer that would you know, disagree with what he would say. He would give an excuse as why he wasn't. You say, well, I'm looking at it because of the costs or whatever. Then we'd have something about how the costs are, you know, it would save the country money, not cost the country money. And you know, so no matter what we did, we couldn't get, even at the end of the 7th meeting, and we couldn't get him to commit still on co-signing the Medicare for all. So you know, that was bird dogging as far as I'm concerned, you know, because we would be like front and center with the signs, and we had 22 different people participate in those meetings, and they weren't really well attended. Actually, there was a couple that were fairly well attended, and we actually got some press. There was some press on, you know, one of our members was interviewed and gave some really good answers when he was asked. Him and his wife both were asked. And so all that bird dogging still hasn't produced anything, and I'm looking for more ideas on how to bird dog him.
Awesome. No, that's good. I mean, you already used one of the tactics that I'm going to actually talk about. You already gave it away, which is you want to stay consistent with folks. I wonder if is that my next slide? Yeah. So that takes me to my next point, which is there's an escalation level of activism. So there's like certain, this is to our standards. These are the things that we feel are like the levels of escalation. So, you know, you start a little lower on the activism scale, and you are doing petitions and letters and emails, and you know, you're doing the click to calls, and you know, the automatic send emails that you just write your name in your email and you just hit send and it does all the rest for you. That's that. Then when that doesn't work, you go to phone calls and office visits. These can be informal office visits and like, hi, I'm a constituent. I would like to speak to my representative. And they send an intern or something to talk to you, or you're calling the office and the intern is sitting there writing down what you said your call is. And then maybe you get an office visit with a legislative director or legislative associate, or the person in charge of their education, all of their education bills and everything. Maybe you get that person. You know, that's the level. And then you get to bird dogging. Then bird dogging is now, okay, we're not getting what we wanted. Like now we're going to escalate, and now we're going to start bird dogging you. So now we're going to show up at, like Paul said, like at every forum you have. If you have you might not want to go on tour. After like the 3rd one, they're going to start to recognize folks. They're going to start to be like, oh, here they go again. They're going to start to anticipate you. So you have to be prepared for that too. But staying on top of them, going on their mobilized pages, going on Facebook, going and looking at just when they, even like spring break or like the breaks when you know that your representatives are going to be back in your state. Like the congressional calendar is public information for everybody. We know, everybody knows when Congress goes on break. So you could be like, oh, well, they'll be home for 10 days. So we're going to go to their office every day for 10 days. And we're just going to ask for them to speak to us. Those are bird dogging. And then there's protesting and civil disobedience, which is a whole nother thing that we won't talk about today. But, you know, those are just typically the levels of escalation. And you like Paul did, how they kept going, they went to all 7 of them. That's important. You really want to make sure that you're showing consistency, because at some point they're gonna have to do a little bit more. Like, even if it's just to pacify you, they may have you talk to the chief of staff or things like that. But that's still a win in our book. If they may feel like that's not a lot, but that's a win in our book. Anybody who you can talk to about it, you want to make sure you're doing that. So, a to-do list. These are going to be the things that you should be like taking notes of. If you wanted to take notes of anything, these are the things. So, number 1, you want to find a location or an event. So you want to find board of election meetings, if that's who you need to talk to, or board of ed meetings. You want to find out what camp, like during campaign season, it's very easy to find candidates that are just visiting your city or your town. They'll probably be in the newspaper. They'll probably be posted all around town. You'll know that they're happening. It'll be on the news, on the local news, who's coming. You want to find a location or an event. It can also be like, if you're like, of course, Capitol Hill or your state rep's office, or any of your state offices. It can also be like, we've done stuff on like, we've done boats, like we have bird dog Joe Manchin's boats, and like we had folks on kayaks and like had signs and we're bird dogging him while he was on his yacht, and that was really cool. I wasn't here for that, but everyone always tells me the story and I'm like, that seems amazing. So things like that, like sometimes you kind of just need to know somebody who knows somebody, or, you know, there's folks sometimes that'll post on social media or send in some groups or something, a Facebook group or something, like, hey, like so-and-so is going to be in town at doing this pop-up at a pizza parlor. Like, let's show up to the pizza parlor. There's so many different ways to find it, but this is step 1. Step 2 is to get a crew. So you want to get some folks together. You want to recruit a couple folks. You never want to bird dog alone. We do not support bird dogging alone, unless it's someone like you're being like very cordial, very friendly. Unless it's just casual conversation or they're willing to speak to you. We don't say press them too hard with questions, because you know, you are by yourself. And also a lot of bird dogging too is getting it on camera. So it's hard, like if you're bird dogging, if you can multitask and record yourself at the same time, then do that. But a lot of times you're so focused on trying to just get everything you want to say out in the small amount of time, because they're probably trying to like not talk to you and like walk away from you. But you really want to have a couple other folks with you. You really want to have at least 3 people in a group bird dogging, I would say, is like a minimum, because you really want to have someone who can record. You want to have someone who is speaking, and you also want to make sure you have someone who can like talk to press or like make sure they're just checking out the surroundings, just like knowing like when it's time for us to leave and when it's time, like, okay, maybe it's time to go now, or, oh no, keep going, like keep asking them. So I say 3 people is always good, but the more the merrier, I always say too, as many folks as you can get. There's power in numbers, of course. So make a plan. So everyone needs to make sure they understand everyone's question. So if you can, it's really good to beforehand go and like have like a run through of like, okay, who's going to raise their hand and ask which question, you know, who is going to ask the follow-up, you know, or what is the order of questions we want to ask if our folks get chosen. You want to make sure everybody knows who's in your group and like who are the folks on your team, and when to ask a question, or, oh, this person's going to be the storyteller. And then after, like when you're doing meetings and stuff with folks, oh, this person's going to be the storyteller. This person is then going to follow up with this statistic or something. You want to make sure you have a little bit of a flow of how you want your bird dogging, we call them expeditions, go. You want to make sure you're also backing each other up and making sure that if someone gets cut off, you say, no, can you please let my member speak? Can you please make sure, like, can you please let them finish what they were saying? I think they deserve to say what they, you know, defending each other and just backing each other up so that they see that you all are together and you're on one accord and you're supporting each other. And it makes them look bad if they start to interrupt a whole bunch of folks talking about how Medicare is so important. You know, that's going to make them look bad, which is also good for your content. But at the same time, you really want to get your question answered. And also keep each other safe. Just make sure folks are being aware of their surroundings and make sure that everyone feels safe and comfortable and that they feel supported by the group. So you want to show up early to scope out the location and get good seats and check the exits in case you're in a bird dogging situation where, you know, you pop up somewhere. We've had people like get into galas and all types of things and like went like basically like undercover with bird dogging at these expensive events, and we'll buy tickets to places that we know there'll be a whole bunch of folks there, and you know we can, you know, bird dog and stuff. Those things are open to everyone. So we will do anything we can to get our folks there to ask the questions. So you want to scope out the location. You want to make sure you know where the person is going to be standing. If you're at an event or if you're at a meeting, you want to make sure you know where that person is going to be sitting. So if your question is directed at someone, you know, okay, that's what that person looks like. They'll be sitting at that seat or they're sitting right there. And I can sit right in the front. You always want to try to sit in the front. You should try to sit in the front if you're at an event, but you also, if there's a lot of you, you don't want to sit together in a group because then they're going to stop picking in your area. They're going to start pointing to the back. And so you want to make sure that you have folks scattered around, but you want to make sure you also have a good majority of your folks in the front of a lot of these locations and then in these events, especially for like the campaign rally type places where it's kind of like just a free for all if everyone just put their hands up. And whoever they see hand first, then that's the person that goes. You want to make sure that you're strategically placing yourselves. And this is very important. You want to make sure you raise your hand first, fast, and high. So you want to be like, shoot it up. Like soon as they say, yeah, so we're going to have a brief moment for questions. Does anyone have a question? You want to be really strong and really, really high with your hand, like as far as like you're reaching for the sky, because you want them to pick you and they're going to see you better. If you're in the front and you're shooting your hand high and you're shooting your hand fast, then they'll be most likely to pick you. So that one is very, very important. And everyone should raise their hand every time, because you can always defer your question, or you can always, just ask a question on your list of questions that you all want to ask, or any of that. So everyone should always raise their hand. I even say raise it again. Even if you already asked the question, raise it again. See if they'll ask you another, if they'll let you ask another one. So you want to execute, you want to plan, and you want to record. We say on video and on paper. Of course, on video is going to be a lot easier to disperse and to get to everybody. But yeah, you want to make sure that you have some press there, or you have some folks just taking photos and taking videos, and like some folks writing down some good quotes that you can quote the person that you are bird dogging, like things that that, oh, that was good, they said this, or they agreed to do this. You want to make sure that you are getting those things down on paper as well. You want to get a handshake or an autograph or a selfie, or I also say, or a meeting. You want to try to get a meeting, or a lot of times folks, so like the representatives, especially if you catch them like out somewhere, like at the grocery store or something, like, oh, like call my my chief of staff, call my scheduler, and tell them that I told you that they need to make an appointment for you. I'm gonna text them right now and let them know that you're gonna to wait for your email. I'll meet with you first thing Monday morning, because they don't really want to talk to you without anyone around. They don't really want to talk to you without, making sure they run it by someone first. So you really want to try to get them like, oh, like, you see this picture of us? Yeah, remember me? I met you the other day, and you said that you were going to meet with me, and your scheduler hasn't gotten back to me. So I just wanted to remind you of who I was, so that you're putting them in a little bit more of an uncomfortable situation, so you're more likely to get a meeting. So it's important. These are just little tactics that you can use, but it's important to, get some type of proof that you were there and that they were with you and that you asked them a question or something. It's really, really good to have that. You can also share that with media and press as well, which is very, very helpful to share what your story is. And also just finding a journalist to repeat your message. We talked about that, and getting some press, or even if it's just a local journalist, or even folks in your group, if there's someone who enjoys writing or has some connection to some news stations, it might be good to have them just cover the story and just write a couple quick words. Or if you're doing something very large scale, then you could have have like a media advisory go out or something along those lines, in anticipation of your group showing up. If you want it to be known that your group is going to be showing up somewhere, and you want folks to join and you want press to join, then it's always good to try to find a journalist to just uplift the message. And then report back to the larger group. So this is a part of your campaign. Make sure that when you are planning bird dogging expeditions and you're thinking about what you want them to look like and what you want to do and what you want to say, make sure that you also include like a debrief opportunity, or a time to meet up outside after to just talk about what was said, and like, oh, like that was really good, or oh, I wish they would have said this, or oh, did you catch this? Because, everyone's going to see different points of view of your bird dogging. So, it's always good to come back together to talk about what worked, what maybe didn't work, what were some of the highlights, or just things that were really good, so that you can get better and better every time you do them, but also to see like which strategies work, and also if anything really big happened. So what are the ingredients of a good question? I'm getting to the end. So some ingredients to an impactful question is starting with something personal. And it doesn't have to be about you. It can sometimes be from someone anonymous, or it can be someone who sent their story in to be told, and you are the one that is sharing it on their behalf. It could be, just something that can really draw folks in and just make them understand, like, the severity of what you're talking about. And you want to use your story to transition to the scope of the problem. So you want to just be like, this is why this is important. This is why you need to do this. And you want to state it very clearly for them what you are asking for. And, if you can even give an example of like what that would look like, or how that could happen, that's always helpful. Like, you're investing this much in this, and that money could be going to this, or, just anything that can really expand on what the problem is. And then you want to finish asking a question that puts them on the spot where they can only have a yes or no answer. So you don't want to leave them any room to like go over it or breeze over the answer, or give you something just like a super personal answer, like, well, my mother was a union worker, and I agree with that. No, you don't want that. You want them to say, yes, I will do that, or no, I will not do that. So as a lot of times they're trained. Congress members literally go to a whole orientation on how to not answer a question directly. So it is important to make sure that you are asking very clear, concise, and direct questions that they can just say yes, no, or I need to get back to you on that, or I agree, or I disagree. You want them to make some sort of stance. So here's a cheat sheet. So just to run through everything. So you want to first identify an event, find an event. You want to get a group together, and you want to plan together who's going to say what, who's going to do what, like all of that. You want to make sure that you get good seats. So you're going to show up early to your event, and you're going to identify all the exits and all of the spots where everyone's going to be and who's going to say what. And you're going to get your hands up really fast and really high and very strong, so that they know that you have a very important question. And then, of course, you want to try to get a handshake, a picture, a video, some sound, something, some audio or anything with the person that you're bird dogging or that you're meeting with. And you want to try to get quoted. You want to try to get them to say something that you can quote or send to the news that is going to, and also to use it, to hold them accountable for what they were speaking about. You want to also get a report out. So you want to make sure at the end of your bird dogging, you're getting having a debrief and getting all of the info out of the way and all of the quotes out of the way, and then making sure that you're talking about strategy that worked, strategy that maybe didn't work, what you're going to do next, and all of your next steps, and do it all over again. Because bird dogging should be consistent. You want to make sure that you're being consistent in your bird dogging. So again, how to ask good questions, questions that can already contain the answer. You believe in Medicare for all, right? You believe that, right, Senator? Don't you believe that Medicare for all is important? You want to make sure that you already are trying to get them to agree or say something. And of course, including a powerful story and making sure you're asking for something in the future. So, can we increase investment in this? Can we support raising this? You want to avoid partisan jargon and technical language. This is something I didn't include earlier, but you want to try to be as neutral as possible. And not make it this is a GOP issue. This is you don't want to make any stance, any side. You want it to be an issue for everybody, so that you keep the doors open to conversations with everybody who can really make something happen. And you want to keep it, this is hard, but you want to try to keep it under 60 seconds. You want to try to be clear, concise, quick, but still very powerful and very strong in what you're saying and very confident in what you're saying. So some questions that might be a little harder, or people who can tell, or folks who are very good at telling their story and are very comfortable with telling their story, you may want those folks to do certain opportunities, or to have certain opportunities, or go first, to ask a question first, to set the tone of what you're going to be talking about. That's really important as well. Do you have any questions? I am doing really good on time. But are there any immediate questions? Does everyone understand how we're going to bird dog, and how we're going to move forward with folks and make sure that we're getting people on the record saying stuff that we need to get some change to happen? Are we all feeling like that?
I have, like, maybe, I don't want to be confrontational. I just want to get a meeting to educate this guy. And so I like this is very good, by the way. I didn't know it was so scripted, you know. But the thing about starting off with, you know, a positive with him, like, I know you believe in the safety nets for our community, you know, and you're just starting, and we wanted to, you know, something along those lines, right?
Yes.
Be concise, right? And then get somebody to give it an example in terms of, like, us with a story, right? And then ask him, then go direct and say, you know, we want to know if you'll co-sponsor this bill, you know, with the number, or, you know, with the name of it. And then, you know, around that, you know, I like the idea of, you have to have a posse, you know, maybe a small posse, but at least everybody to have, like, a role, to know what that role is.
Exactly.
So, this is pretty amazing. I didn't know it was so, like, together.
Now, these are all just tactics, right? So this is a training to just give you some tactics, because bird dogging is one of the best, like, we literally say it's one of the strongest tactics in the toolbox. Like, it's one of your strongest tools, and your organizing toolbox. You have all of these things. You have all of the connections that you made. You have all of the relationships that you have with folks in the movement. You have, you know, all of these important things in your toolbox. But bird dogging is the one that's really going to get you some change and get your foot in the door to opportunities that you may not have had before, or that you can't get over the phone. You know, it's important. But another thing that is also bird dogging is that you can do from home is blowing up their phone lines and calling their phone lines and calling, clogging we call them clogging the line. Just clog the line, have everybody, we're just gonna, I'll call back to back for this hour. You call back to back for that hour. And someone's going to talk to us at some point. I just called. All right, let me call next. And you just sit around and you just keep calling until somebody talks to you. And at some point, they're gonna talk to you. Some intern is gonna have to answer the phone and deal with your question. And you're gonna be very kind to that intern, because they're just doing their job, and they have to write down everything you're saying. But you're gonna tell that intern, look, I understand. I appreciate you talking to me. I really do. I'll make sure to find time to come to the representative's office in person. So, you know, I'll leave you alone for now, but you let my representative know that I'll see them in very soon. They'll see me very soon. So make sure you pass this along to them so that they're prepared for when I come. Because I am going to still come and speak to them, of course. I just had to do a preliminary call. You want to make sure that you're letting them know that, like, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to just leave you alone. I'm still going to make sure that, you hear from me and that you're my representative and you represent me, or that, or to highlight that, you're hurting this community, or your organization or your business is not beneficial for this community. It's hurting this community. This is why you need to do something about it. And we're going to keep asking you to do something about it until you make those changes. So that's just what this training is, to just help you feel a little more guided on how you can do things. And of course, for experts now like Paul, who they don't need all the other stuff. They just need the small tactics that sometimes we forget certain things, or there's certain things that we can all learn from each other too, that really make us stronger as organizers and as bird doggers, of course. Were there any other questions? Yes, Paul.
I appreciate your whole list of all the stuff to do. I think the one thing we didn't do right was we didn't record anything ourselves. We other than a written recording of our own. We recorded what he would answer on some of the bird dogging, but we didn't do any videoing or of his responses, which probably we should have. That would have been a good idea to do. And, we also bird dogged him at a public event that he was at. We had a big banner that said he was at a Steelworkers Union event for the infrastructure bill when it was when they were pushing the vote on it last year, or it was in the summer. But we had a big banner that we had that healthcare as a human infrastructure, and with our group's name, and that made the newspaper. So, we didn't get to ask many questions there, but, we've had 4 meetings with them, besides the bird dog, we've had, I guess that's bird dogging him too, having those 4 meetings with them. So it's not over, but, hopefully he's starting the weekend. I don't know,
Yeah.
This person, Paul, this is for you. Is this person on the like he's on the more conservative side? So is he backed by very conservative, or you chose him because there's a possibility he could change, or is progressive to some degree?
He's the Democratic congressman, Democratic elected congressman in the 1st congressional district. And his predecessor, who was in there for 32 years, had recommended him, and there was a tough election, primary election, his first go around. And the guy that the previous congressman, Pete Visclosky, he had endorsed HR 1836. I think that was the number, but he had endorsed the previous legislation. And so, we throw that up in his face all the time. Oh, your predecessor endorsed it. Why don't you endorse it? So he's backed by, he got elected because of the steelworkers. He got elected because of the black vote in Gary, Indiana. And his recent re-election, the Republicans came hard at him. They ran a very conservative black woman against him, and in hopes that they could break the vote in Gary, and which is 85% black. And he prevailed he prevailed in the election. And so he's runs a little scared, but still he has a lot of progressive people behind him, but he himself calls himself a centrist. So that's the problem. He's trying to stay in the damn middle. In answer to your question, thank you.
Well, thank you, because, you know, I'm in New York, and yeah, I'm still working on something that's very local, you know, but I'm also I'm a city retiree, and, you know, the city has just switched us into private, you know, Medicare Advantage. So, you know, my vision, I had really good health care, you know, original Medicare, they were paying for the 20%. So really, you know, all of a sudden they're trying to take that away from us. But people who are in the you know, 70s, 80s, 90s, and we're like, you know, we're not having that. But the mayor, there's been litigation and we won. And my vision, of course, forget, it's not only about me. I'm like Medicare for all, new and improved Medicare for all, you know, single payer for the nation. But, you know, it's just, we've been working it locally, and now I'm going to, I'm really doing something else, which is, you know, reduce the budget in the Pentagon by a little. Like the Poor People's Campaign supports that, you know, just 10%, $848 billion. Come on, 10% would help, you know, a lot of our communities that are really could use the help. So, you know, I don't know, but it's hard to organize locally, you know, my neighbors right now. And so this is very helpful, because I can see, you know, you really have to do a lot of planning before you can have a meeting. But we started off with, let's have a meeting, you know, because I have some experienced people who can give a lot of facts, you know, but that's not going to do it alone. Anyway, I want to hear from others, so I'll stop right now.
No, that's good. We on my team, I'm on the federal advocacy team, so a lot of the stuff I do is federal now, and like, you know, on a national level. But my background is local organizing, like specifically like youth advocacy and youth organizing. But now that I'm doing a lot more federal advocacy stuff, this is me being a Gen Zer and them not teaching this in school, which is another issue. But I just learned about like the debt ceiling and like how important that is, and like how we're about to be, things can really go either way for our country right now because of the debt ceiling. And it's like, we're waiting. So my team, we've been doing a series of conversations with elected officials around the debt ceiling. And we had our first action and our first presser like 2 weeks ago. And we're going to have, no, it was a little longer than that now. It was probably like a month ago. And then we have another one this week specifically on Medicare and healthcare. And because it's important, in June, they're saying we'll hit the deficit in June, like, it's gonna get very crazy. It could be before that. They said it could be even before June, but the things that they're discussing of taking out and things that they're trying to reduce, when it's like our defense spending, we could definitely, if we don't have the money, why does it have to come from these things? Why can't it come from these things over here?
Can we benefits, right?
Yeah, can we evaluate this group? We know this group. We know you don't want to. We know you want to touch this group right here. We understand. We understand that completely. We get it. But however, what if we look at these things? What about these things over here? What can we do with those so that we can try to not touch the things that we really, really need to survive? You know, so yeah.
I have a question, and it's just brief. Can you send me information on the debt ceiling? Because that's a way of talking about my thing right now, and I don't really understand it so well, you know. Is that possible? That the center, what is it?
Center for Popular Democracy. So
Yes.
that brings, yeah. So I can actually show my next screen. I come back to, so we have, so one, this is my email, and this is our the website we use specifically for our bird dogging program, Birddog Nation. But yeah, this is my email. If anyone ever wants another training, or wants some other folks, to take this training, or if you are looking to do direct actions or looking to partner on any actions and stuff surrounding the issues that CPD covers. Our actual website is populardemocracy.org. So just the end of my email, that's our website. And you can see all of the issues and all of the campaigns that we have. And birddoggnation.org, you can learn all about the Birddog Nation program and how it started. It actually started around healthcare, and it just became this bigger thing that just brought in thousands of folks. And at the height, there were people bird dogging every single day with CPD all across the country. So we're bringing that energy back, which is what some of these slides are. So if you're interested in Birddog Nation, this is where I do our plug for CPD. If you're interested in joining, you can visit our website, and then also I have a form at the end. If you want if you want to get more folks trained, that's really how movements work, is by sharing resources. So we'll do this training for you, anybody, free of charge. We don't charge anything to do this. We will do a training for you, and we have them available in English and Spanish, and we can do them in person or virtually, like these settings. And then I'm also starting a rapid response team that we are going to be building out this year, and ahead of 2024, and the early primary states like South Carolina. We're really trying to make sure that we're prepared for folks to support us on the ground and such. So we're starting a rapid response team, especially always looking for folks to come to DC and speak to their reps with us. And I have these QR codes, but I think they're also gonna send these out to folks. But this is these are the links for our, and I'm gonna drop them in the chat too. But I will drop them in the chat as well, the direct links. But this is a survey link that I used as well, for me to know that you had the training and know who I trained. And then also now you all have completed Birddog Nation training. So if you're interested, you're already trained. So now all you have to do is just go on an expedition and let us know if you ever need any of the trainings. Let me stop sharing my screen. I will also I'm also going to send in the chat our next monthly call. CPD has monthly national calls, and we talk about different things each month. Lately, we've been having a debt ceiling segment where we talk about updates surrounding the debt ceiling on this call. Someone from my team, the Federal Advocacy and Mobilizations team, will be on there to talk about what we're doing. So I just dropped those in the chat. And yes, feel free to again reach out to me. I'll put my email again in the chat. And thank you so much for joining today. And let me know if you all have any questions. Thank you so much. Yes, Paul.
Did they hire you because your initials are the same as Bird Dog?
I never even noticed that. That's so funny. I'm going to tell them that. I'm going to be like, did y'all know that I now own Birddog Nation? Like, that's like my program now. And it's the same as my initials. It was meant to be. It was meant to be.